Everyone understands that the male sin was corruption in collaboration with occupying Romans. But why is female sin perceived as sexual in nature until today? That is just a show of gender prejudice based on early medieval Roman Catholic bigotry. Dear friends, imagine having a pope spreading malicious, dirty gossip about you. That is what happened to Mary Magdalene, thankfully long time after she died, by Pope Gregory the Great, who labeled her a prostitute. He conflated, twisted, and badly abused several biblical stories to do so. In all 4 biblical Gospels, there is a story about a woman anointing Jesus with perfume, fragrant oil. In Gospel of Luke, it is situated in Galilee, early in Jesus' ministry. In Gospels Mark, Matthew, and John, it is in Jerusalem at the end of his ministry. In Gospels Mark and Matthew, she anointed his head. In Gospels Luke and John, she anointed his feet. In Mark, Matthew, and John, there is an unease about the cost, while in Luke, the tension is about her sinful reputation. In Mark, Matthew, and John, it is lifted up as a pre-burial ritual, anointing Jesus for burial, while in Luke, it is explained as thankfulness for forgiveness of her sins. Very likely, there was just one source event, a woman anointing Jesus, and some unease about it among those who were present. But then there were at least 2 different traditions, mutually intertwined and crossing one another. 2 different legendary paths of tradition, which nevertheless crossed and influenced each other while explaining that one event. Articles and entire book chapters were written about the relationship of these gospel stories, and never reaching any consensus to my best knowledge. So that is our setting. Only in one version in John, the woman is being named as Mary of Bethany. Only in one version in Gospel of Luke, we are told she was a known sinner. And in another and completely independent story, we are told that Jesus cast out 7 demons from Mary Magdalene. Believe it or not, that was exactly how Pope Gregory, in the late 6th century, reached his conclusion that Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. By the way, it is similarly ridiculous, like those medieval paintings of this scene where you see a female figure crawling under the table and touching feet of Jesus, who is seated on a chair. Of course it is nonsense. In reality, it was much simpler, because back then, in good Hellenistic manners, they were reclining on sofas. Gregory's interpretation is similarly ridiculous. It requires similar mental gymnastics, conflating Mary of Bethany with Mary of Magdala, or Mary Magdalene, conflating sinfulness with possession by 7 demons, and conflating being a known sinner with being a prostitute. That last one I find particularly offensive because it is so misogynistic. If a female sinner, then it comes out of it that she is a prostitute. But the Gospel of Luke has 2 closely parallel stories. One is about a sinful woman anointing Jesus' feet, and receiving forgiveness. And another one is about a sinful man, a head tax collector called Zacchaeus, who is also forgiven. Everyone understands that the male sin was corruption in collaboration with occupying Romans. But why is female sin perceived as sexual in nature until today? That is just a show of gender prejudice based on early medieval Roman Catholic bigotry. That sinner woman was almost certainly not Mary Magdalene. And Mary Magdalene was almost certainly not a prostitute. And that is something everyone should know about Mary Magdalene and about the Bible. And by the way, should the sinner woman and Mary Magdalene be the same, there could be a better and more plausible explanation of her sinfulness. Her nickname is derived from Migdal, Hebrew word for a tower. An archaeologist found that tower. It stood and guarded the entrance to the fishing port and was a seat for collecting fishing fees and duties. Her nickname is traditionally explained as Mary from the town of Magdala, but her nickname might also be explained as Mary from the tower. And her sinfulness was of a similar nature like that of Zacchaeus. She was either personally or through her family implicated in corrupting fishing deals, licenses, and fees. That would also explain why she was well off and could financially support Jesus and his band of disciples. Only very few, if any, high-ranking prostitutes would have resources to do it. Being from the family owning or being herself an owner of a fishing licensing business would also put her on the same social level with Joanna, wife of Chuza, Herod's manager, who is mentioned in the same sentence. And that is another reason why Mary Magdalene was almost certainly not a public woman, and something you might find interesting about the Bible.